will talk about realization. Buddha is the enlightened one who realized the truth about life and reached ultimate happiness. In this class, we will learn about what is realization. This is a verse from the 8 Realization Sutra. It says, realize that this world is impermanent, that nations are unsafe and unstable, that the 4 elements cause suffering and are empty, that there is no self within the 5 skandhas, that all things that arise must change and decline, and that they are false appearances without any stable essence, that the mind is a source of evil, and that the form is a congregation of wrongdoings. Contemplate all of this, and gradually you will disentangle yourself from the cycle of birth and death. I number them as 10 lines. Number 1 is realize that this world is impermanent. There are 2 kinds of impermanence. One is called the impermanence of continuum. This is talking about our lifetime. In the continuity of life, we must go through aging and decline. That is impermanence. The other impermanence is called the subtle impermanence. It's talking about moment to moment impermanence. Everything is cause and conditions. Therefore, the conditions are always changing, so the world is constantly changing. Just like 2 years ago, we will never guess the world will be plagued by the coronavirus. That is a big shock to us. But if we really understand that this virus is expounding the dharma of impermanence, we'll no longer be afraid. We will accept this phenomenon and actively use this impermanence to come into spiritual awakening. So when we really realize impermanence, it will help us sever our attachment to the mundane world, and it will also bring out our great compassion to everyone who's suffering right now. Number 2, the nations are unsafe and unstable. All the countries right now are unsafe because of the virus, the politics, and economics. Nobody is for sure. So when it's uncertain and unstable, we feel suffering. But a person can still have inner peace in a chaotic world. It just takes a lot of meditation and wisdom. When we really understand impermanence, we will accept the current condition and actually create positive condition to benefit the world. Number 3, that the 4 elements cause suffering and are empty. The 4 elements are earth, water, fire, and wind. These 4 elements make up the world and make up our body. Because their conditioned existence, they're always changing, they cause suffering. And it's empty in nature. When we really let go of our attachment to the 4 elements, to our body, then we will see our true nature. In the Shogama Sutra, it says, the nature of form is true emptiness, and the nature of emptiness is true form. So when you let go of all your attachment to form, to water, to fire, to wind, then you will see your true essence. So in the sutra, it talks about King Parsanaja. He was having a conversation with Buddha. Buddha asked him, is your body indestructible or is subject to decay? The king replied, this body of mine will constantly change until it perish. Buddha said, so it is. You are in your declining years. How do you look compared to when you were a boy? Because now the king is 62, the same age as Buddha. The king replied, when I was a boy, my skin was fresh and smooth, but now my hair is white and my face is wrinkled. Buddha said, did this happen suddenly? The king replied, no, it's subtle transformation. It happened decade by decade, year by year, month by month, day by day, instant by instant, and thought by thought. I know my body will keep changing until it's extinct. But Buddha said, your face is wrinkled, but your nature is not wrinkled. What wrinkles is subject to change, what does not wrinkle does not change. Your nature is fundamentally free from production and extinction. Therefore, it's not subject to birth or death. The king heard this, really believed in it, and he felt this great delight and dharma joy because he does not have to be afraid of death anymore. When you see suffering and emptiness in the form, that's when you find your true nature. Number 4, that there is no self within the 5 skandhas. The 5 skandhas are our form, our feelings, our perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So the body and mind, there is no self. Everyone is clinging to the 5 aggregates as the self, but it's actually not. So we have to see emptiness and relinquish. Only when we relinquish our attachment to the 5 aggregates can we be free from suffering, because attaching to the 5 aggregate is causing the suffering and the reincarnation. So we need to understand non-self. The 5 aggregate is not me. There was a 50-year-old patient. Her stomach was bleeding, so the doctors had to use a feeding tube through her nose. And because the hospital was too crowded, she had to sleep in the hallway. And when people sleep in the hallway, they always have to hear lots of complaints. But this woman is a devout Buddhist. In the morning, she woke up, she told the doctor, "Good morning, doctor. The air is great in this hospital. I already finished my morning recitation and I'm very happy." The doctor was very surprised to hear that from her because she has a feeding tube through her nose and she's in the hallway. But she was so cheerful and happy. After the exam, the doctor told her, "You actually have late-stage liver cancer." This lady was still smiling and said calmly, "If I live for 1 day, I will serve Amitabha and serve others. And when it's time for me to go, Amitabha will come take me." So she was calm when she heard the diagnosis. Many months after she was supposed to die, the doctor called and asked about her. Surprisingly, she is still healthy, still going to all the temples, helping out everyone learn Buddhism, and is still spreading hope and love to everybody. So this is a bodhisattva that understands no self. She let go of her attachment to her body and to her ego. All she does is to serve others. That is a true bodhisattva. These 4 truth, impermanence, suffering, emptiness, and non-self, we need to contemplate in order to come to true realization about suffering, the first noble truth. The next lines further explain these 4 truths. Number 5, that all things that arise must change and decline. We talk about everything in terms of its changes. So it goes through our thoughts arising, abiding, changing, and declining. Our body goes through birth, aging, sickness, and death. And the world goes through formation, existence, disintegration, and emptiness. So everything goes through cycles. This is just telling us it's impermanent and it's causing suffering. So this is describing number 1, impermanence in detail. You might ask, what is wrong with arising or with birth? We actually like birth. Birth is actually the biggest culprit of suffering. And the sutra, it gives a metaphor of 4 robbers. There were 4 robbers that were trying to rob this person. So one of the robbers disguised as a very nice person to lure the person to come out. When the person comes out, the 3 other robbers attack the person. So the first robber that's disguised is actually birth, and the other 3 are aging, sickness, and death. So when we have arising, there must be ceasing. That is impermanence. Number 6, and that they are false appearances without any stable essence. False appearances is talking about suffering, and without any stable essence is talking about emptiness. Everything you see is a false appearance. We are being deceived by ourselves. We are actually the person that is causing the cage of reincarnation and we don't even know. Just like all the virtual reality rides in the amusement park, it's just a projection with special effect, but we think it's so real and so fun, but it's actually a delusion. This life is full of false appearances. Do not be attached to them. When you're attached, you don't see the truth. Without any stable essence, which means everything is empty in nature. That means it doesn't have a permanent, independent, and controlling self-nature. Number 7 and 8, that the mind is the source of evil and that the form is a congregation of wrongdoings. This is talking about number 4, which is non-self. Our body and mind is not the real us. If it's the real us, why do we have so much evil thoughts and wrongdoings? If we can control it, why will we create negative karma for ourselves? So it's actually all conditioned seeds from our alaya consciousness that's causing us to be more deluded and keep creating reincarnation for ourselves. So realize that your mind and body is not the real you. Let go of your self-ego. That's the only way to cultivate. If you keep cultivating and you still hold on to the self, we will never succeed. Just like if you go up to the mountain and hide there to be in solitude and meditate, but you still hold on to the self, it's still useless cultivation. So let go of the self. That's the most important realization. Contemplate all of this: impermanence, suffering, emptiness, and non-self. And gradually you will disentangle yourself from the cycle of birth and death. You keep realizing these 4 truths, you'll be free from birth and death, which means reincarnation. So when you really understand this, you will be a true bodhisattva who will make the bodhisattva vow to endure suffering on behalf of all sentient beings. So do not ask for sudden enlightenment. Just look at your life right now. See the impermanence, suffering, emptiness, and non-self in your current life. And you will find your true nature. We call it the real mark. When you really see clearly, you will be at peace with yourself and your life. Then you can influence everyone around you to be peaceful and happy. That is a true realized Buddhist. So that's a class for today. Thank you for listening. Amitabha.